My husband and I have been together for 4 years. I have 2 kids, nearly adult male and 19 female, and their half-brother is a toddler. This past week my husband had an emergency. His dad had a medical emergency and he wanted someone to watch our son. He asked my older son, he refused because he was going out with friends. He also asked my daughter, but she locked herself in her room to study. I was at the restaurant with my brother meeting his girlfriend for the first time. My husband ended up taking our son with him to the hospital and his mom watched him from there. He came home and was lashing out at everybody and calling us selfish and unfeeling. I tried to explain that the kids were busy, but he told me to get the F out with that bull because my older son could have skipped the hangout and watched his brother, and my daughter could have watched her brother while studying instead of locking herself in her room. He also scolded me, but I told him I couldn't leave lunch with my brother since he was visiting town and this was my only chance to meet his girlfriend. He yelled some more, then told us he was cancelling the family holiday trip for Christmas this year. The 2 older kids were upset and said it was unfair. I called him unreasonable to cancel the trip and punish the kids, and possibly me, like that. He refused to discuss it later. Now the kids and I aren't speaking to him, and he's saying good riddance. Edit, my husband was supposed to watch our son at the time. That's why I went to see my brother at the restaurant. The kids aren't used to watching their brother when neither parent is home. It's a medical emergency, but everyone is hanging out, studying, or lunchy munchies. You are the idiot, OP. He's your son too. When there's a family emergency, you drop everything to help. Meeting your brother's girlfriend for the first time is not a valid excuse not to go watch the kid. I mean, what the heck? Clearly you put your husband very low on your list of priorities. I don't blame him for cancelling. You guys don't deserve it. Honestly, in times of crisis, people really show their true colours. OP and her kids showed theirs. If I was OP's husband, I'd be out the door, but I would do just about anything for my family in an emergency, and they have done the same for me. To be unwilling to skip lunch or a random hangout is despicable. It shows just how little OP and her kids care about OP's husband and how selfish they all are. Yes, that's what I thought too. It's not just someone's kid, it's her own son, and her other kid's half-brother. Even if they had no kids, the idea that OP would just go, well, my father-in-law has been rushed to hospital and hubby is in a state, but oh wait, here comes the starter. I guess he can cope alone. Like what? You tell your brother there's been a family emergency, apologise, get your butt to the hospital and support your spouse. Do they not do for better or worse in sickness and in health in wedding vows anymore? Has it been replaced with, I'll be there when it's convenient, now screw off, here comes our pudding? I'm wondering if she married the guy for his money and had a baby to lock the money down, because nobody with a young kid who actually cared about their husband would do this. Oh no, your father's in the hospital. Too bad you'll have to take my kid's half-brother with you because my brother and meeting his girlfriend are more important than your father is sick. Right? Forget about rushing home to just look after your own child. What about emotionally supporting your poor, distraught husband? I've cancelled social obligations for less to support my family. Seriously, if my sister said, oh no, my husband has an emergency, I'd be offering to mind the kid myself so she could go to help. OP, it's not that you couldn't help him, it's that you wouldn't help him, and actions have consequences. If you don't do the work, you don't get the reward. And yes, be prepared, you'll probably be served divorce papers sooner or later. Congrats. Update, my husband just told us that he'd be spending Christmas with his family, saying he needs to be around his dad anyway. The kids said they would just go to their bio dad since they and my husband are still not talking. Neither of the kids is happy with how things turned out. Things have gotten out of hand and the problem has gotten bigger. He's now choosing to abandon us on Christmas and keep our son away from his siblings and me. 4 years ago, my mom and brother got into a car accident. My brother was 15 at the time and learning to drive. He crashed into a sports car out of panic because Mom was screaming at him for messing up on parking. Insurance wouldn't pay, and my parents had to pay out the sports car owner. This really financially hurt us. Some of the money had to come from my own college fund as my parents' names were also on it. As a result, I missed out on an internship and an opportunity to study abroad because I couldn't afford it. Thanks, Mom. Recently, I was on leave for Thanksgiving. I'm 23 and single. Most girls in my town around my age are already married or have great jobs or are in med school or law school. I'm enlisted in the Navy, not out of patriotism but because the benefits are good. Mom complained that I'm still not married or in grad school. I snapped and told her, if you didn't bankrupt us after that accident you caused, maybe I'd find a husband at original college. Maybe I wouldn't need to enlist. My dad and most of the family are angry for making her cry and ruining Thanksgiving. I may have gone overboard, but I think I was in the right. We're stuck in this quagmire because of an accident she caused. Am I the idiot? Edit. I was contributing to my college fund with money from relatives and from a part-time job I had in high school. It feels like I went through juggling a part-time job with school for nothing. I know I'm not entitled to travel abroad or attend fancy school. 2 of my friends who are now married met their husbands through a study abroad exchange and now live overseas. My mom did pressure me to date while attending the crappy state school. I didn't because the guys are a bunch of losers who would go back to their stupid towns after graduation. And frankly, I don't want my kids just to spite her. She is desperate to be a grandma. Also, my little bro is in no contact with my mom now. Everyone's the idiot here. Your mom, she has no right to have a go at you over your relationship status. It's frankly none of her business and shouldn't matter to her if you decide never to shack up with anybody. You, it was an accident 4 years ago. Crap happens, you need to get over it and move on. It wasn't money that you solely earned, and plenty of people have managed to go to college in spite of lacking funds. You've come across as very entitled. Disagree. How would the teen be mostly responsible for the accident? He was yelled at for no good reason while learning how to drive and not parking properly because he was still learning. If the mother hadn't stressed the kid so much, he wouldn't have panicked, pressed the wrong pedal, and run into the other car. The adult who decided to teach an unlicensed child how to drive on the street with cars in it was responsible for the accident. Also, it was money that OP earned. OP was contributing to their own college fund. OP was financially punished for a mistake they didn't make. Their parent decided without their consent as to where the college fund went. OP, your mom is an idiot, both for ragging on you for not being married and for causing the accident that led to your family's financial hardships. I mean, yelling at a kid learning to drive to the point they wreck in a panic and go no contact is just being an idiot parent. You throwing that in her face while she's being incredibly and inappropriately meddlesome during a Turkey Day meal is not idiot territory in my opinion. My mother passed away a few months ago. While we were cleaning out her house, my daughter-in-law's son's wife took her box of handwritten recipes because she wanted to make a recipe book for Christmas for everyone in the family. I thought that was a nice idea, so I had no problem with her taking the recipes. Last Friday, we had a family dinner where she gave everyone the recipe books. It was very nice and everyone loved them. I thought she would bring the handwritten ones, but she didn't. I texted her on Saturday asking if I could have them back the next time we see each other, to make sure her grandkids got some of her handwritten ones, but I never got a response. My son came over yesterday with a box of recipes, but told me his wife felt very disrespected. She made recipe books for all of us, and she didn't think I appreciated the effort and I was being ungrateful asking for the handwritten ones back when she assumed they were given to her to keep, and she's disappointed as she won't have them. I never meant to give them to her to keep just to make the nice recipe book, but most of the recipes in there are ones she never made. Daughter-in-law was only around for the last few years while she was sick and never really got to experience her cooking, so she left out most of my mother's staple dishes that she always made and all her grandkids remembered. I don't hold that against her, but it's the truth. I told my son I was sorry and did appreciate the book she made for everyone, but he told me they needed to take a little break from me. Not the idiot. Daughter-in-law did a kind thing by creating the books for everyone, but it doesn't automatically mean that she gets to keep the handwritten originals. She has the book of all the recipes that she felt were important, so she's not missing out on anything by you dividing the original copies amongst all of the grandchildren. It feels more like an ego thing rather than a sentimental one. Right, not only did she try to take OP's mother's handwritten recipes, but she also left key recipes out of the book. She was purposely trying to steal her recipes and hoard them for herself, which is super messed up because OP was willing to share all the recipes with everyone. Then to call OP disrespectful because she wouldn't let her pretend they belonged to her. Daughter-in-law and son can take all the time they need if this is how they will behave. The gesture of making and sharing the book was very thoughtful, but I would never have assumed I could have the handwritten recipes of someone who was not my biological grandmother and a relatively recent in-law. If someone who married into the family came to clean my late grandma's home and said, "Look at all these old pictures, I will digitize them for everyone," I wouldn't then assume we'd given up family photos for them to keep. She can be upset if she wants, but in what world would you not have wanted your mother's stuff back? The entitlement of the daughter-in-law to think she deserves that kind of keepsake is mind-blowing. Sounds a bit narcissistic. My dad is married to Janie. They've been together for a little over 6 years and married for about 4 now. Dad was a widower when they met. I'm a teen female and my siblings are a younger teen female and a tween male. Our mom died 8 years ago. Janie has not adjusted well to being a step-parent. I think she thought she would just be a parent to us because our mom had died and didn't consider that we'd still talk about and have photos of mom. Over the years, she's been to therapy and she and my dad have gone to couples sessions. In the last year, the 5 of us have gone to family therapy and she's admitted it's hard for her because she feels like she's second best or consolation to us and that we don't really love and want her. Dad assured her that we all love her just as much as Mom, that she's his number one and is vital to our family. For a while then, in session, she and the therapist would talk about how she feels like she's not a true member of the family, like she's a second-class member, not someone we see as important in the structure of the family. She said she never felt love from any of us, and she feels like even extended family, which she explicitly said was grandparents and any aunts and uncles, come before her when it comes to us kids. She said she sees it in so many things, including the way we don't regard her parents as our grandparents or her 2 sisters as our aunts, and how for one special teen birthday we did a nice dinner party, but my guest list included both my mom and dad's side of the family but not her side. My sister was the first to speak during all this, and she said nothing was ever done to make her feel bad, that she just doesn't think of her as her mom or as her parent. Once that was said, she talked about how much that makes her feel bad and like she's not truly accepted. The therapist asked us to consider whether we'd be willing to deepen the relationship so she felt equally as loved and important as our dad, and Dad wanted us to consider ditching our typical Christmas dynamic and spending time with her parents exclusively this year. Then 3 weeks ago she brought up that I'd made something for class that went into details about my family, and she pointed out that she and her family were not mentioned. Then she asked me why my grandparents, aunts, uncles and cousins were mentioned on both sides, all with their own pages, but I couldn't make room for the most important woman in my life, her. I told her because she is not the most important woman in my life. I told her that would always be my mom, followed by my 2 grandmas. She asked if she was just second best and then if she was unimportant, and I refused to answer. Afterward, my dad and Janie both told me that I was cruel to say she wasn't the most important woman in my life when she was there every day and had done her best. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and I think stepmom needs a different therapist because it doesn't seem like she's getting a lot out of this one. Your feelings about this are valid, and Dad is wrong for trying to force you to deepen the relationship when it sounds like the stepmom is burning bridges and looking for a ready-made family of her own. I think stepmom is getting what she wants, which is emotional validation, rather than what she needs, which is actual therapy to uncover the core beliefs and life experiences that have created her distorted view of things in the first place. If she and OP's dad genuinely want things to change, it's time to find a new therapist. Geez, this woman's need to erase your mom is insidious. She can't guilt or force you and your siblings into giving her the emotional connections she's looking for. All she's doing is creating resentment. The reason blended families have a higher failure rate is because the step-parent has a habit of coming in with this expectation that they will be on the same playing field as the kid's bio-parent. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. When my dad died, he left the house my brothers and I grew up in to the 3 of us and our mom. By then, it had already been a rental property for 18 years, so none of our family lived in it. Over the last 5 years, my elder brother has kept complaining that he doesn't have any money. In the last year, he decided that he wanted to be bought out of the house we jointly own, but he wanted way above the market rate, $180,000 instead of $110,000 for his share. Mum, my younger brother and I offered in the market rate price only. He refused and secretly contacted a solicitor and sent us all notice that he would be forcing the sale if we didn't give him the price he wanted. We tried to compromise, but he said that he didn't care about the property, sentiment meant nothing to him, and that he just wanted the cash. So, in the end, the 3 of us bought him out for a price between his asking price and market value. He's barely spoken to the family since. My mum started worrying that the same issue would come up again when she passes. She's in her late 80s. So my younger brother and I suggested that we buy out her share, leaving the two of us as the only owners. The sale went through, and my sister-in-law must have told him when he came to my grandson's birthday party. He's furious and rang our mum, screaming at her and saying that he's been excluded from family decisions and we are purposefully cutting him out. He told her that he won't speak to her ever again unless my younger brother and I apologise to him in person. I really don't think we did anything wrong, and if he's guilting mum, then he's the idiot actually. Not the idiot. What family decisions? It wasn't his house, not his money, not his decision. The only reason he's upset is that he wants the money from your mom's share of the house. There's no need for you to apologise, plus you mentioned he barely talks to you all. What difference would it make? Tell your mom not to listen to him. He's wrong and he's being an idiot. He was expecting a third of your mother's shares when she passed so he could force you to buy him out at far above market price again. His behaviour is atrocious. This is such a sad situation, and I'm sorry you're going through it. It sounds like the money was more important to him than family. Yep, you're right that he already got more than his fair share of the money for this house. He's being a huge idiot and you've done nothing wrong. In fact, you're doing the smart thing by eliminating any chance that he'll try to double dip. And if that house does have sentimental value to you, your brother and your mom, you're also doing the morally right thing by protecting it from his attempt to force a sale in the future. Personally, as hard as it is, I would call his bluff here. His presence in your life isn't a gift to you. If he threatens to walk away, let him.